All right, so I'm Ieva. It's good to be back in a bit more professional capacity this time. I'm senior scientific editor at the EMBO journal, and I will tell you a bit about publishing activities that EMBO does and what is our part in promoting different concepts that EMBO is interested in, such as open science and research integrity. And this doesn't work for me. Okay, so you can see that there are 5 journals under EMBO Press. We have started a long time ago, 40 years ago, the first journal was founded. This is the EMBO journal. There are 2 journals that focus on very broad topics in molecular, cellular, and also organismal biology, such as the EMBO journal and EMBO reports. We look for novel, exciting findings that will be of interest to a broad range of scientists. Then there are 2 more specialized journals or more focused journals, such as EMBO Molecular Medicine. They look at work in the interface between molecular biology and clinical sciences. So there has to be direct and clear impact in how patients are treated for the publications that are submitted there or published there. Then there's Molecular Systems Biology Journal, and our most recent newcomer is Life Science Alliance. It is published in collaboration with 2 other academic publishers, Cold Spring Harbor University Press and Rockefeller University Press. And this is a very broad and general journal looking to publish manuscripts that will be of relevance and interest to a particular scientific field. So it's a bit less selective journal. The other 4 have rather high selectivity that I will mention later. EMBO Journal and EMBO Reports were hybrid open access so far, so we had both publishing models, open access and subscription. Starting from 2024, we will be moving to a full called open access for all the journals at EMBO Press. What might be of interest to Latvian scientists is that the costs are covered by EMBO for EMBC country scientists that are publishing in EMBO Press journals. So this could be helpful if you decide to publish with any of these journals. As it was already mentioned, we are moving a bit more into ecology and evolution topics as well. So we are going with the wave of interest in these topics also for EMBL and EMBO. And there are papers such as first confirmation for very exciting findings that could also fit to EMBO reports. Our journals are run by professional editors, so you might know that there are 2 modes of publication process. Sometimes there could be academic editors that are active scientists. In our case, these are editors that are fully dedicated to this publication and selection process. Of course, we do it in close collaboration with our editorial advisory board, which are eminent scientists in their field and guide our selection process there. And we also interact for evaluation of the manuscripts, of course, with the broader scientific community who are then our reviewers and provide detailed input on manuscripts that we consider. What do we select for? It's a bit nebulous. Of course, it's always novelty and quality, but as we know, this is a bit in the eye of the beholder. There are lots of other factors that come in, such as broad relevance, what is the scope of the study? Is it how deep the analysis is? If we know very well what is going on, this would be a good EMBO journal paper. If the finding is exciting, but we don't quite yet know how all the factors come together, maybe EMBO reports is more something to consider. As you can see, the acceptance rate is quite tight. Life Science Alliance has a 50% acceptance rate, so this is a more broad and general journal. However, we make up for it to make life a bit more comfortable to our authors that submit to us. So there are lots of publication policies that we hope are of interest, also to scientists that might consider us in comparison to other rather general journals. So we are a not-for-profit publisher. All our income is going to EMBO programs to support fellowships and different grants. And you can look up our finances online, so there's a clear breakdown what goes where. We offer different features that could be of interest, such as double-blind review, in which case not only the authors don't know what the referees are, but the referees also don't know who the authors are. Some people are interested in this. there's mixed reports whether this is actually helpful for the authors, but some people would like to use it, and we offer it. I will talk a bit more about open review process and scooping protection, and follow up with our activities in data integrity and open science approaches. So this is our sort of graph on how publication process ideally should work like. So we would like to support easy submission process, so you do not need to go through complicated reformatting steps to come to one of our journals. We care about science that is in the paper rather than how you present it. Of course, it should be readable and the pictures should be clear, but that's all that we worry about. In the first 3 to 4 days, the editors will get back to you and tell you whether the paper will go out for review or whether it could be better matched to a different journal. And in up to 1 month, you will get back the referee comments in case we have sent the paper out for review. One major policy that our journals have is the focus on one main revision round, which should be 3 to 6 months. The goal for this is to avoid very long, multi-year revision process in which the authors are kept in limbo without really knowing if their paper has a good chance to be ultimately published. And as you can see, this sort of commitment works very well. So up to 95% of manuscripts that we invite for revision actually go through this one revision round and get published in our journals. So if a revision is invited, then there's a very good chance for the manuscript to actually come out in the end. Our review process is fully transparent. So this was started by EMBO Journal in 2009. What does it mean is that all communications between authors and editors and referees can be seen online after the acceptance of the manuscript. So you can go and read this for every paper we publish. There's various steps of consultations, both between referees and editors and authors, to make sure that once we commit to the revision, it's clear what the authors have to do to ultimately get accepted. We do this both before inviting a revision and afterwards. So referees talk to each other before we contact the authors to invite the revision, to crystallize the most important points for the revision that have to be addressed. We might go to the authors at this point as well to see if there are some tricky questions, whether they are actually able to tackle these problems and whether the manuscript has a chance to sort of come to the level we need to accept at our journals. And in any case, after we invite the revision, we consult with the authors to make sure how experimentally they will go about the revision, and to make sure that after 3 to 6 months, they have a smooth sailing and can get in. So this is what the review process file looks like. You can see the full timeline of the process. You can see who was responsible for the paper, and you can see the full exchange that went on during the assessment and revision process. Interestingly, these files are occasionally read, so there is some interest. So you can also go up and take a look. Also, if you want to see how to review papers, this can be an interesting educational material for the students. You can see what type of referee reports, how they look like, what did people comment on, and how the authors addressed it. So it can be helpful when preparing for your own submission. What we also offer is scooping protection. So this applies to manuscripts submitted to any of our journals. This is important if you are applying for a journal with a high novelty threshold. And what it means is that once the paper has arrived at our office, if your competitor has made similar finding and this is published now, we will not count it against the novelty of your manuscript. This is now extended to the preprints. So preprint gives you sort of a timeline badge that you were the first to make this discovery. And if after posting of the preprint 4 months, you have time to come to our journals, and again, this scooping protection applies. We also have established a rather active manuscript transfer process between EMBO Press journals, but this is being extended also in broader scale with other journals, in particular Nature Springer family journals. What does it mean is that if a manuscript is reviewed at one journal, you can take these reviews and go to another journal and then get it published there. So the goal here is to reduce the number of refereeing rounds that the manuscript goes through until it finds its final home, so to speak. This helps against referee burnout as well. So we often have situations where people say, well, I have seen this paper before. I can send you my comments, but I'm not sure how happy the authors will be to see this again. We sort of cut down these problems by making sure that one set of reports is enough to get into the next journal, which provides a clear commitment what section of these comments needs to be addressed. So of course the cutoff is different between EMBO journal or EMBO reports or Life Science Alliance. So it's possible that even if the paper was rejected from one journal with a smaller scope of revision, you have a good chance to get into a different one. Another development here is refereed preprints. So you can take referee reports from the EMBO Press journals and link them to your preprint. From our side, you can also take them to any other journal outside of EMBO Press as well. This is something that we hope will be of advantage also for scientific assessment. So different funders, including EMBO, now allows refereed preprints as a proof of productivity, of scientific productivity when assessing eligibility for different grants and funding processes. As part of this refereed preprint development, an important player has been Review Commons. This is a platform that was established by EMBO Press in collaboration with other publishers. It is a journal agnostic or independent review platform. So you can submit your manuscript without targeting it to a particular journal. It will be reviewed by referees that will assess it purely on its scientific contribution and soundness of research. And then with these reports, you can either link them to the preprint as a refereed preprint or go to a journal to get it published in a more traditional way. And these are the collaborating journals. So you can see that there's quite a bit of selection. And you can sort of test waters in various journals and get a quick response from them, whether with these reports and this type of work they are interested. So this also helps to make process smoother until the manuscript finds its final target journal. All right, so from this part, I would like to do a quick insight in our data integrity screening part. So as we support the open and sound science, excellence in science is what EMBO stands for. We also do our best to make sure that manuscripts that are published in our journals sort of are contributing to these goals. And for that, for all the manuscripts that we consider to be accepted, so after the revision is completed, they undergo data integrity screening. This includes also plagiarism check, but also image check and data check. So there are different levels of issues that we find. So it's interesting that up to 1/5 of papers which are otherwise evaluated by good scientists in 2 rounds, there are still problems that we need to fix before they can appear online. We see it as our service to the authors as well to make sure that these problems will not have more challenges to be corrected afterwards. Most of them come under genuine mistake category, which are copy-paste errors, assembly errors, flipped images, or mislabeling. Another category that we often deal with is beautification, which is where the authors want to make the life of readers easier. They increase contrast, cut out parts of lanes of their gels or of microscopic images, which still is not what we support at this time in the publication process, because it leads to loss of information and potential misrepresentation of findings. And then there are more severe cases, which is selective reporting, and that is more tricky to notice and to catch at this stage, but can happen if once we have source data submitted for the figures, which I will talk about in a bit. And of course, the more critical situations where there is a clear intent to mislead the reader with fabrication of the findings. So here's a bit of breakdown, how many cases in which categories we find, and at least for us relieving is the fact that most of them are this sort of category 1, where there has been no evil intent but simple error, or the scientists have tried to make the images and data a bit more aesthetically pleasing. So this we can correct before accepting the manuscript for publication. Levels 2 and 3 are more severe, so there could be some sort of change of conclusion based on what has been done with the data or how it has been altered. In these cases, we might contact institutions because they are the ones which have access to the original data and experimental notes, and they can tell us whether the findings are sound, whether there has been an error or a more general problem. And in some cases, then the manuscript is rejected if we lose trust that the findings are correct and reliable. EMBO Press has been, however, working also in making process of correcting published records a bit more scientist-friendly. So whenever we see term retraction, it sort of automatically implies purposeful fraud or some sort of really evil intention. However, there are cases where the authors themselves, after some time, realized that their reagents were contaminated, that there were some errors in data analysis they did not notice at that point, and they might wish to correct the publication on their own. And this is something which we strongly encourage. So there are different processes for this. For example, we can use retract and replace in case if the authors can provide sound data set from the same experimental run, or partial retraction if we can excise part of the findings while keeping the main message of the manuscript. We also would like to encourage the term withdrawal in contrast to the retraction to sort of indicate the situations where the authors have been the ones coming forward and to support them in this process. As I already mentioned, in all of this, data availability is quite important. So to assess data integrity, we also require source data. So this is all data sets and original images behind the manuscript and the beautiful figures that are usually submitted as the final publication. We now mandate data deposition for original and large data sets and also for screening data for manuscripts that are under revision for our EMBO Press journals. And also latest at the point of publication, they have to be publicly accessible for all the readers. We also encourage citation of data sets, such as, for example, proteomic, metabolomic, or general structural data sets that have been deposited, even perhaps not linked to a final publication at this point. So this is all to encourage reuse of data and to provide appropriate credit to the people who have contributed to these data sets. Bettina already briefly mentioned the source data platform, so this is part of these efforts. This is a curation platform that aims to sort of unlock the data enclosed in a manuscript and to make it more available for people looking for particular reagents that have been used in an experiment, particular type of experiment, things that are more challenging to find by PubMed search or perhaps Google search. So you can go into this platform and look for particular setup or type of experiment, and hopefully it will guide you to the results more easily. It also helps to link together various databases, data sets, papers, and source data together in one platform. So the general goal of all of these attempts and innovations is to make science and the data obtained by scientists more accessible and reusable. So different approaches to facilitate this, starting from the transparent editorial process to the Review Commons platform, which allows the reuse and transportability of the referee reports, to these more data-based approaches such as source data, and also S- platform that I will just briefly mention, which is set up to provide exchange with data packages and data sets that have not been published yet, but that you might want to share with your colleagues already before the final publication. And in the end, there are also courses that we prepare and offer as scientific editors that anybody can apply to, and EMBO fellowship carriers can do it for free. So EMBO postdocs, for example, can participate in these courses without a charge. So these are scientific integrity courses in which we go into more detail about these topics. Also paper writing, paper reviewing, and figure designing courses that could be of interest to PhDs and postdocs, and sometimes even to more established scientists. And with this quick run through, I would like to encourage you to ask questions or to join the group session afterwards to talk about general publishing, EMBO Press publishing, or even your own manuscript if you would like to get any input about this. And I welcome any questions. Thank you for your attention.